What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 397th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. We have a heck of a show for you guys. Did I introduce myself? I'm just thinking of how daunting
a heck of a show already, huh?
Thinking of how daunting this is. I'm your host, SBJ. With me, Greg.
Hello. Remind me, I have a quick GTS PSA to give everybody when it's my shot.
Okay. And Will also here.
I have no PSAs. I love everything. Everything is great.
Perfect.
It's a wonderful world.
All right, good. You probably can figure out by the episode title that there's an interview this episode with Dr. Lava. They are the Twitter/YouTuber that posts old Pokemon history. And we talked a little bit about that stuff with like Gorochu, which was supposed to be the evolution of Raichu, and the Gen 4 Sprite female-male leaks a couple episodes back, kind of more in depth of, you know, how he came across this information, what he actually does with the information, you know, going forward. So that'll be in the middle of the episode, and it was a great interview. Okay, we got a jam-packed show for you guys, so we're going to go through this stuff. There's certain news articles I didn't pull. I assure you I saw it.
Oh boy, that's a start.
Well, let's just jump right into news. There's a new episode of Twilight Wings, that podcast.
Oh, it's so good.
So listen to that in the Patreon feed. I will save my opinions for it. Speaking of controversy,
let's talk about a different controversy. Let's go for it.
Let's talk about a different controversy. This is egg events that have made up the last couple things in Pokemon GO.
The excellent egg events? Yes.
I think the Sulphur Road did some research, and how did they frame this?
We're not going to do it anymore.
Well, no, not that. They like calculated the amount of days since like January, since the start of the year, and how many of those days had events, and out of those days that had events since the year started, like 77% of them involved egg events.
I think it was 48 out of 62 days had egg events.
Yes. There you go. So that's a lot of egg events, and we've complained on this show about how the egg events seem awful and bad. And other people have also complained. And then we decided to start a petition, hashtag bring back no egg events. No, I'm just kidding. That didn't happen.
Not with that attitude.
So the controversy, so they changed it. Apparently, this is the controversy, I guess. This is the issue, is Niantic came out and told third-party sources that they've changed it. And they said to these third-party sources, such as like Trainer Tips, or some other YouTubers or some other sources of media, that the starters, the clone starters that were going to be available in 7K eggs, will now also be available in 1-star raids. A great start. They have also said they plan on redoing events in the future based off what they've heard about the complaints for all these egg events, that's all good. That's all great. My problem is you can't actually find Niantic saying this. You can only find like YouTubers repeating that, like, we've talked to Niantic and they said this. And we saw this before with Darumaka, where Niantic said, don't worry, after Darumaka's out of 7K eggs, it will appear in the wild. But they never posted an official statement about that. They told, I think, like an Instagram person, and then the Instagram person told us. And then back a couple months ago, suddenly Shiny Gibble was available. But again, they didn't tell anyone, except they told an Instagrammer, and the Instagram person told us. While I get that Niantic is working with YouTubers and influencers, not us, because I think we're too negative.
we don't influence anything.
We could be.
Come on.
I mean, we can change. Make an offer.
There's a couple things. One is like, why are they not just they can push us news in the app. They have a website that we go to and report on. They have their own Twitter account, which we've gotten news from before when they reply to people. But they seem to rely on influencers that, one, not everyone follows. And if you're going to tell, like, the Gibble, and the Gibble is a good example. They only told one influencer. And it wasn't until very much later on the other influencers just piggybacked off that initial influencer. But we don't even know what influencers they work with. And I feel like that should be disclosed. Like, if Nintendo sends me a free game, not only do I have to include hashtag free game in my tweet, and I have to include hashtag free game if I'm streaming it on Twitch, but there was like one time I forgot about it, and Nintendo like messaged me, and they were like, hey, just a heads up, out of your 4 videos, this one doesn't have the hashtag in it. Can you update that video? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm super sorry. Like, that was an accident, because sometimes I change when I'm streaming on Twitch, sometimes I'm changing games, and then I'm changing the title, and then Twitch only remembers one of your multiple titles that you have. And then with DNA, anytime we bring up Pokemon Master News, it's just very easy to say, like, hey, I specifically work with DNA, but I have like no clue which influencers are working with Niantic. I don't know where to find that information. Who I don't get why Niantic is weird. Are they like doing it so they don't have like any responsibility of, like, if the shiny Gibble broke, they could be like, well, we never officially said it.
Yeah, right. It like gives them plausible deniability,
I guess, but in kind of a terrible way.
That's the whole universe of plausible deniability is terrible way. Yes, you don't use plausible deniability for good things.
Well,
the good news out of all of this is, if you don't want to buy incubators and you want to get the starters, the clone starters, they will also be available in raids, which, I said this before, I would rather spend $1 ensuring I'm getting a Pokemon that I'm paying said dollar for, instead of spending, how much is an incubator? Either $1.50 or $2 for 3 random chances of who knows what. Probably leftover love discs from the Valentine's Day event.
For the amount of money that the 3 of us have cumulatively put into Pokemon Go, I honestly think that we should be the influencers that they should become.
Yeah.
And then we'll stop complaining about them using other influencers.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll just stop complaining. If you give me free stuff.
Well, Niantic has paid for us to go to GoFest before.
When?
Not all of us.
Not all of us. Yeah, some of us, some years, sometimes.
Oh, I see where I am in the pecking order. It's a bunch of crap.
I'm not saying I don't like some of the people who one, are on this show, but 2, report on Pokemon Go news. I'm just saying that I feel like there probably is some legal gray area that Niantic is avoiding with a lot of stuff right now.
True. And if the people from Playrix would like me to say positive things about Gardenscapes, I did start putting money into your game, so my ears are open, friends.
Why are you playing that game?
Why wouldn't I play that game? I love it. It's sick.
I mean, it's sick.
Speaking of sick.
Yes.
Funko
Pops are the greatest thing ever. I'm so happy that everybody out there has the opportunity to get them.
Can we just become a Funko podcast? Because
look, that Cubone has turned me Funko positive.
I hate that word a lot.
Oh,
what, Funko positive?
Yeah,
I think the Pikachu is cuter.
Pikachu's very cute, but
and the Rattata was real cute too.
I'm not a huge Rattata or Pikachu fan, but that Cubone though, yes, that Cubone is all of it. So I'm sold on Frankenberry, Morton Salt Girl, and Cubone. Like, you're winning me over.
So this came out of the New York Toy Fair, which I feel like didn't get that much coverage the last year, or also last year, but maybe that's on me. I
think that's on you.
Oh, okay. But the Toy Fair was held February 22nd to the 25th. It's actually still going on as of this recording. But they showed off another 4 new Funko Pops, which is another Pikachu. So I think they're up to 3 or 4 Funko Pikachus at this point. A Growlithe, a Cubone, and a Rattata. They will also be doing a 10-inch version of Mewtwo, which will be exclusive to Target for $29.99. And this is to follow the... they have done Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle. They did Eevee. And then earlier this month, they announced Mewtwo, Mr. Mime, Vulpix, and Pichu. And I didn't realize this, but Silicon Era pointed this out. The only Gen 2 Pokemon out of this was Pichu. Otherwise, everything so far has been Gen 1.
I mean, that's no surprise.
I mean,
we know
slow
where the money
release.
is.
We know. Yeah, we sure do.
I mean, if they don't want to go the Pokemon Go route and suddenly people be like, I mean, when's Gen 5 coming? Like, they're still in Gen 1. They're going to milk this till 2050.
Is there, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a series that has like a lot of characters and they actually did every character. I think Harry Potter had a lot of Funkos.
The Golden Girls.
No, that's only 4.
I have 4. Hillary.
Yeah, my favorite Hillary. I really love Bianca.
Samantha.
And Joanne. Those are my 4 favorite
Those
Golden
are the
Girls.
best. I don't know that they've done every character of one series. Like, I think they've done the main characters of one series, but I don't think there's like a Moaning Myrtle Funko.
Oh,
Watch.
I'm hold on. No, they did the like, what's his name? Dean, the like Harry Potter's only black
there is
friend.
A Moaning Myrtle. Harry Potter's one black friend.
Yeah, they did that.
We're going to avoid one controversy and walk into the other, is what I'm hearing right now.
This show's real downhill. List of Harry Potter Funko figures.
No, they literally have on the Funko, or I guess it's off the Funko site, a Harry Potter shop that is only Harry Potter Funkos.
Holy cow, there's a lot of Harry Potter Funkos. There's
a chess set that's not Funko.
Well,
but it is.
There's
Funko.
A Victor Crumb Yule Ball Funko? What? Oh, there is. It's really bad.
There's a Cho Chang. There's multiple Harry Potters, of course. Multiple Ron Weasleys.
Course.
There's a Malfoy with a whip spider. I don't know what that means.
Quidditch Draco Malfoy from Hot Topic only.
You could just get a Basilisk as a Harry Potter figure.
Sure.
You got Mad Eye Moody. I remember that.
I'm going to say they've done almost every important character in Harry Potter looking at this list.
So that's what I'm worried about Pokemon. Because if Game Freak has enough audacity to put both Quillfish and Maractus into Sword and Shield, then I would imagine that Funko has enough audacity to make a Barboach figure.
Look, if Funko doesn't make it if they don't make it Dunsparce, they better quit now, frauds. Like,
that's not coming for a long time.
You can get it for me for my 100th birthday.
Wow, there's a lot of Harry Potter Funkos. I
am still scrolling on this page I found.
Are you on cardboardconnection.com?
I am.
You should go to HarryPotterShop.com.
I'm only at Dolores Umbridge number 39.
There's 2 Hagrids? Oh, one is flocked and one is unflocked. I see. There's a I can never say her name. Hermione. There's one of her as a cat.
Yeah, that's an important plot point.
The Polyjuice potion went wrong.
I mean, in 3 years, this podcast is us going to be. It's just going to be us talking about which Pokemon Funkos we're missing, and they're only going to be up to like Gen 2, and it's going to be like glow-in-the-dark Dunsparce only available at KB Toys in Canada.
Oh, man. I'm there, road tripping to KB Toys Canada.
It's not that hard to get to Canada from where we are.
Oh, it's not. Believe me, that's what I'm saying. I'm road tripping. It'll be my first time to Canada, I bet.
All right.
Yes, I have not been to Canada. Don't
send
me tweets.
I didn't say it.
You didn't have to. I could hear the typing.
Sword and Shield TCG set just came out. If you're thinking about getting into the Pokemon trading card game, both Will and I will advise you not to. But if you decide that you hate money, the Sword and Shield just came out.
Is anything good?
There's a Cramorant.
But is it good?
It was good until this past weekend, and now it's not good anymore.
What happened this weekend? They released some promo or something?
No, the Oceania Championships in Australia happened.
Oh, and nobody played Cramorant?
No, the people who did play Cramorant lost.
Oh, wow.
Cramorant has for 3 colorless energy, can do 160 damage to any Pokemon on the bench or not, which is very good. People run Dedenne GX, but they never use it to attack. They just run Dedenne GX for the ability. And so Dedenne GX has, ironically, 160 HP. And if you knock it out, it gives you 2 prizes. So what the thought process is I will put 1 Cramorant in my deck, and when I only need to knock out 1 more GX Pokemon and or take 2 prizes, I will drop the Cramorant, move the energy, snipe the Dedenne, win the game.
That didn't happen?
No, that didn't happen.
Well, the fundamental rule of if you only have 1 of a card in your deck is you will never see it.
Pokemon TCG is still just shuffle everything until I get what I want, right? I mean, that's how you play the game.
Somewhat.
Just shuffle, and then maybe I'll get what I want.
Search, shuffle.
Shuffle,
attack.
search.
I love the Pokemon TCG.
Tell if that's sarcasm or not.
You are so full of baloney.
I love it.
It has ups and downs. X and Y, definitely a down. Sun and Moon, definitely an up. Until the end of Sun and Moon. That was definitely a down.
So is this Cramorant's V card? Is this the Cramorant V?
Yeah, it looks like he's coming out of the square.
Yeah. Although there's 2?
Is there a Cramorant?
Why not?
V? No, the other one is just the alternative art. It's just the
okay.
full art
what's
version.
This one where he's just standing on a shoreline?
That's just
that's just Cramorant.
We call that filler.
Just like how Cramorant was Pokemon filler? Bring it the controversy. Bring it the heat.
I'm assuming the only reason they announced this so early, but this is a lot earlier than they've ever announced it, is because of the Toy Fair. But they've already announced the expansion to Sword and Shield, which is called Rebel Clash. And off the press release here, it says, dozens of recently discovered Pokemon from Galar make their way to the trading card game in the next expansion, Rebel Clash, releasing around the world on May 1st. Available in booster packs, theme decks, elite trainer boxes, and special collections, Sword and Shield Rebel Clash will continue to introduce new Pokemon V and Pokemon V Max, such as Toxtricity V Max, based on Gigantamax Toxtricity. In addition, trainers will look forward to adding the following key cards to their TCG collection: 16 Pokemon V, such as Toxtricity V, Dubwool V, Bolton V, and Sandaconda V, plus 14 full arts of Pokemon V. 7 V Max Pokemon will be included.
V has lost all meaning.
Including
I
the
don't
final.
even know what you're saying anymore.
Include the final evolutions of the first partner Pokemon of Galar, as well as Copperajah V Max and Dragapult V Max. 15 trainer cards and 4 full art supporter cards, and 4 new special energy cards will be included in the set. I don't know if they said how many cards total. I want to say I read somewhere it was like 170.
Oh, man.
I know.
That's a lot. How many Roserades are in there?
0?
Man.
I don't think maybe they did print a Roserade. They were probably
There
will.
have been plenty of Roserade cards in the past.
There has been.
Well,
if you
there
want
should
to
be.
collect Roserades.
There should be some that are playable now.
All right, Pokemon Masters news here. Full disclosure, I am partnered with DNA. Will and Greg not partnered with DNA. Full disclosure, I saw that somebody data leaked the game.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So there's like a lot of characters that I guess were shown. We're just going to talk about the news here. It does if you want to seek that out, you're more than welcome to. A couple months ago, DNA apologized that the game wasn't fun. Then they did this like 6-month roadmap, and they said that this month would include new stories, this month would include new stories, etc., etc. And they've really stuck to that to a T. I don't think they were late on anything they originally promised in that roadmap. So the first one being that that on February 24th, there will be 3 new chapters of the story being added, chapters 22 through 24. And it looks like you will be able to get Valerie. I don't know if they've actually revealed her Pokemon yet.
What game is she from? Valerie? I'm not.
Valerie? Oh, geez. No one can ever remember Valerie. She's from X and Y.
She's the fashion designer, right?
She's the fashion designer that has she's in the coolest town in X and Y. But the problem with her gym is it was just a copy and paste from Sabrina's gym.
Wait, she's the fairy gym?
Yes. Yeah, she's the fairy gym.
Oh, okay. With all the kimono ladies.
Yeah,
correct. Yes.
It's the fashion house. It's the fashion design house.
In her gym, she had Mawile, Mr. Mime, and Sylveon.
It's going to be Sylveon.
But didn't they release to the Japanese Twitter that she was with Sylveon?
As of this podcast, we can reveal that it is Sylveon.
I predicted it right.
So her sync pair is Sylveon. I'm pretty sure besides Mina and Granbull, this is the second fairy sync pair they're adding to the game. All right, second bit of news here is that there is an update to the app, and they've changed some things in the update. Sync pairs can now be used. Sync pairs can now use a new feature known as Lucky Skills. Sync pairs level caps have been adjusted. The amount of XP acquired in some areas have been increased. Area detailed view can now be seen in all areas that contain battles. Sync pairs that appear and their types and weaknesses can now be viewed in area detail. They fixed a bug where, in a rare occasion, specific that's a very vague bug. They've adjusted some of the AI, and they have done some minor bug fixes and improvements. So, update your app. There is a whole thing about what I just mentioned. They changed some of the level cap levels for specific sync pairs. We don't need to go through that whole list. It's pretty long, but they've changed it so it's ideally easier to level up your current characters. The big news here is if you missed it, maybe you just got into Pokemon Masters, the Mewtwo and Giovanni are coming back.
Well, thank goodness, because I missed that.
To coincide with the new changes, new exchange options will be available. And it looks like the item exchange period will begin on March 5th, and Giovanni will run from March 5th to March 15th.
I don't know why you guys didn't tell me that the team break from Pokemon Masters is basically Pokemon Duel players who got mad because their game got canceled. So they're invading another game with their masks.
Is that what they look like in Duel? I don't remember.
I mean, kind of. Everybody had to wear a mask, so...
Team Break has like a cool animation though when you battle them, how like their masks / the bee like kind of zooms into the screen.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I've only had one Team Break battle and I didn't notice that. It was on the beach. I was trying to find Barry.
I also just like the concept of they have all the character models in the game and like they just put a mask on them to represent that they're Team Break. It's like really kind of dumb, but also like I love it so much because it's like much better than this is like older Pokemon games where they would just be like, oh, I'm part of Team Rocket, and they'll like spin around and then they just turn, their like little sprite just turns into a Team Rocket grunt. I just think this is like way more funny of just it's an Ace Trainer boy, but let's just put the mask on him. Or like the hiker with the Team Break mask is really funny to me.
Spoilers. Haven't gotten that far yet.
Every model has a Team Break mask, I'm pretty sure.
Greg, did you pull Steven?
Nope. So, like, I don't want to waste all of my gems on trying to get Steven Stone when there are for sure at least 3 new incoming, I think, because they've shown Supermodel Elisa, Valerie and her Sylveon, and we know Red is in there. I don't know if it's in this one, but we've seen him.
Yeah, that was kind of like the weird thing. So I think that was on the Japanese Twitter. So we can talk about Eliza. I think I'm almost positive when you pull her, she says, "I'm Eliza."
I think so. Because like the American one says, Signasuit, Eliza, and Rotom are joining the fray. and the Japanese one says it's Valerie and Sylvia are joining the fray.
Yeah. So the Rotom one is really weird. I just want to talk about this real quick because I really like Eliza, and that's my favorite sync pair is Zebstrika and Eliza. So like seeing Eliza get another Pokemon is really cool. And I know some people were like, "Oh, Oak and Mew are kind of weird," but not really, because like Oak's journey, the reason Oak gives Red and Blue, and I guess Chase and Trace, the Pokedex is because he wants to document all the Pokemon, but he can't do it himself. And his main goal was to maybe I'm wrong, you guys can correct me. Like he knows Mew exists, but he's never been able to document it.
So this is weird. You learn why Professor Oak has Mew by going through his sync story.
Oh, okay. I have not finished it yet.
It's very strange because you're introduced to this pair, and you're introduced to Professor Oak, who's like, I want to join your team, and this is my partner. And then you do a sync story, and he's got a completely different partner. And at the end of it, he's like, I want to join your team. And like, we already covered this, Oak. I know you're old, but come on.
Oh,
we've talked about like why does Mina have Grand Bull and not Ribombee? But I guess she could get a
Signa
suit. But Eliza doesn't ever have Rotom ever. I get that her dress looks like Rotom, which is really cool.
The dress is really good.
And she's like,
does she never have?
Not in any of the games, I don't think.
Yeah, so in Black and White, she has Emolga, Zebstrika, which I always hate when they give trainers / gym leaders the same Pokemon.
Emolga, Zebstrika.
Or maybe in Gen 2 with Morty, the gen where they introduced new ghost Pokemon like Misdreavus, they gave Morty Haunter, Gengar. So in Black and White 2, she has Emolga, Flaffy, and then Zebstrika. So perfect. They got rid of an Emolga, gave her a Flaffy. And then in challenge mode, so if you do the harder Black and White 2, they gave her Emolga, Flaffy, Joltik, and Zebstrika. And then in the World Tournament, she has Zebstrika, Ampharos, Galvantula, Emolga, Electros, and Stunfisk. And it's possible that you can match her up and she adds on a Luxray and drops the Galvantula. So in no sense does she ever have a Rotom. And I'm not like, it's fine. Like, she's an electric gym leader and it's just, you would think that Emolga would come before Rotom. As like she always has the Emolga with her, as well as
they're
the
saving
Zebstrika.
Emolga for somebody more special.
I don't know of another person who depended on Emolga though.
Somebody electric.
Professor Alman is Emolga.
Stop with your nonsense.
So, Will, out of curiosity, I guess you downloaded Masters.
Yes.
Do you like it so far?
Because I was told for several weeks that I should at least log in and get my gems and whatever that weird comic book looking thing is. So I've been doing that. Oh, when do I get to talk about the raids? The raids since Pokemon Home and how much I love them.
Raids since Pokemon Home. Well, let's. that was our last news.
Well, I got my PSA when we talk about this.
Oh.
We're gonna take a break. We got through all the news pretty reasonably. Interview with Dr. Lava. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about Pokemon Home because it's updated multiple times, which is good. And then Pokemon of the Week and Question of the Week. Not in that order, but we will be right back.
I just do not understand the point of
Funko Pop. I just saw it at Target. I know you like Star Wars.
I don't understand.
Funko Pop. You have to give Funko credit. Oh man, I love the Golden Girls, and they have my favorite one, Hillary. I'm gonna buy that.
We are back from our break. Interview time. I am here with Dr. Lava from lavacutcontent.com. How are you?
Doing good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. It's funny because you connected with me like almost a year ago, and
right.
We are now getting to this, so I apologize for the delay.
It's all good.
Things before Sword and Shield were super hectic, so that was my bad.
It's all good. I got more interesting stuff to talk about now than I did a year ago anyway.
That's true. Your site's really blown up. So before we jump into what we're going to talk about, if somebody has not heard of Lava Cut Content or yourself, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm an evil scientist, first and foremost, but my spare time, I like to kind of, I guess you could say, catalog Pokemon cut content. Cut content in the traditional sense, as well as just sort of unused ideas. I also do a lot with kind of beta content and leaks, not leaks as far as like what's going to happen in Sword and Shield next, but like leaks of stuff that beta content from stuff like, Gen 1, 2, 4 more recently, just kind of because there have been quite a few leaks of old, 20-year-old Pokemon demos and that kind of thing over the past year or two. So yeah, Japan exclusive content, cut content, also do translations of old Japanese, developer interviews, that kind of thing.
I noticed you said 1, 2, 4. Is there a reason that Gen 3, you just kind of skipped over that?
Well, there hasn't really been a leak of, not on the scale of what we've had for 1, 2, and 4, although I do suspect that some stuff from Gen 3 will leak one of these days because of what the source of the other leaks came from. I suspect that I guess we're going to say this for later, but I'll just go ahead and get into it. It was a hack. Someone hacked into Nintendo servers back in 2017, got a whole bunch of kind of development assets, not just from Pokemon, but from a lot of stuff actually. But we'll just stick with Pokemon.
Yeah.
So the stuff from 1, 2, and 4 has been made public, at least most of it, but nothing from Gen 3 yet. But I suspect that it was also hacked and just hasn't surfaced yet, like the other stuff.
So the first time we talked about your stuff was just a couple of weeks ago. It was the Gen 4 leak, hundreds of gendered beta sprites. I guess we came with it from like complete transparency. We came with it as like, we don't know if this is real. We don't know if this is false. Because like in the Pokemon world, if it's not on Cerebi and it's not on Bulbapedia, people just kind of like shrug their shoulders and is like, we don't know if this is real or not. But you've kind of proven over the last, about almost 2 years you've been doing this, right?
Year and a half, something like that. Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of in-depth stuff that you definitely go into, but do you still get that from your audience of like, why should we believe you?
I think most people who've followed me for a while have kind of come to accept it. The people who've read the articles on my website, of course, I'll have random comments from time to time, like, seems like BS to me. But, the case is pretty strong. And, that stuff, for example, the most well-known of the leaks, the Gold and Silver 1997 demo.
That's a Space World one, right?
Right, Space World. It was the demo exhibited at the Space World 1997, stuff often referred to as a Space World demo. But it's not on Bulbapedia, but it's my understanding that not board of directors, I forget the exact term, but basically the board of directors from Bulbapedia seldomly meets, and they're the ones that would approve that kind of thing being put on Bulbapedia. But I've spoken with some Bulbapedia moderators. They think Space World is true. There's been footage that surfaced after the leak that confirmed what was in the leak. And also we've had, we now know, we didn't know this when Space World leaked, but we now know over the past 6 weeks or so that all these leaks, including Space World, came from a March 2017 hack of Nintendo servers. And that guy the hacker was caught. He was prosecuted. I
was going to say that wasn't you, obviously.
No, it was, I report on that stuff, but it's not me who's, breaking into servers and that kind of thing. Wouldn't know how to and wouldn't want to do it. But Yeah, it's pretty indisputable, I would say, that these Gen 1, 2, and 4 leaks are legitimate. Although the Gen 1 stuff was kind of confused by some fan-made stuff got mixed in with it, but we know what's real and what's not, and the leaks are legitimate.
You're doing all this on your own, and from my understanding, you don't speak Japanese, so you have to actually pay translators and stuff. So with all of that, like, what got you into reporting on this stuff? Because this is something really cool. This is something I would have, like, I am the person that cares about the silly difference between, like, oh, this is a mythical, this is not a mythical. This is how you actually say the Pokemon's name. I care about, I know most people don't, right? But I care about that trivia stuff, and I like to know the history of how these things happened, or how we got to the point, or why Game Freak makes the decisions they do.
Well, I first started making just some kind of Nintendo cut content. I started with Metroid Prime. I did Zelda, Mario, a few other games, and then after I did Mario 64 on YouTube, I was like, I guess I'll do Pokemon Red and Blue. Like, probably won't get many views because it's like a 25-year-old game at this point. But, I guess I'll just make a Pokemon game. I like Pokemon. I've always loved Pokemon. So I made one video about Pokemon Red and Blue's cut content, and it kind of blew up, got, over 100,000 views, which was a lot more than I had been getting. So maybe I'll make one more Pokemon video, and it got, some traction as well. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just stick with this for a little while. And then, about a year and a half's gone by now, and people seem to care a lot more when I talk about Pokemon cut content than anything else. So I kind of stuck with it. And, I've been a big Pokemon fan since I was 10 years old. And, I used to be really into the card game. I went to the World Championships, so didn't do very well. But big Pokemon fan for a long time. And just seemed like there was kind of, I guess you could say, like a hole in the market. There are other people doing it. I want to shout out some people probably later in this episode. There are other people who do it, but they're kind of, no disrespect to them, but they're kind of splintered. And the people who do it, even do a good job, don't have the best presentation. There'll be something like an info dump. And, most people would rather see, a tweet's worth of information or a YouTube video's worth of information than just have, pages and pages and pages of sort of like dry, info dump at their fingertips. So a lot of what I do is take stuff that was leaked or by other people and then kind of try and condense it into a presentable format.
Presentable is definitely what people look for at sometimes. Like, case in point, the Pokemon Go community, they love their infographics, and that was just a thing that blew up in that community. And like a clean infographic about, like, that info's out there, right? Like, this Pokemon is weak to this and this and this and this, and it's gonna show up from 10 to 12, and it's like, you can find that info pretty easily, but they love it when it's presented in a PNG 10 by 10 inch square on Twitter or on Instagram and stuff. So, like, presentation goes a long way. And so when we hit this Gen 4 leak, hundreds of gendered beta sprites, this is very easy to follow, very easy to read. So yeah, let's get into this. So this was the one with like female Pikachu with the heart tail but down ears, female Raichu with down ears, which the ear part got cut, but the tail stayed the same on the Pikachu. So
yeah, we can talk about sort of how the leak happened and I guess more the story of the leak rather than, describing the ears of all the female variants.
Sure.
So I guess I kind of have to start at the end to get back to the beginning. So when first there was a Space World leak back in 2018. And then there was a Gen 1 leak, which was published by Helix Chamber in early 2019. And then in this past December, there was the Gen 4 beta sprite leak, which first leaked on 4chan's VP board. Not sure if you're familiar, but...
Oh, I know 4chan. I stay far, far away from it.
Well, I don't spend too much time on there, but they do... credit where it's due. There is a lot of interesting kind of beta Pokemon discussion, as well as, in this case, an actual leak that happens over there on 4chan. So, they use rude words, that's for sure, but they do kind of play, sort of an important part in the Pokemon beta content community, I would say. But Anyway, so there was this leak. Someone posted who we now know, but at the time didn't know who it was, posted a link to a website, a weird website, that had hundreds of Gen 4 beta sprites on it. And of course, everyone on 4chan was, skeptical, of course, but it seemed to be legitimate just on the face of it. And then it was about 24 hours, it was taken offline. I ended up getting into contact with the guy who owned that website that had the beta sprites on it. Yeah, I talked to him, and there's some details I won't go into, but a few days after that, that person I talked to who owned the website posted, I guess you would say, a confession. I hope I'm not mischaracterizing it, but he did say sorry and kind of tell the truth, so I think it's fair to frame it as a confession.
Sure.
So anyway, the guy who owned the website the Gen 4 beta sprites were on, he posted a confession on Glitch City, which basically told the story of how all these leaks happened, who played what part. I'll have to apologize. I keep referring to this person as he. They actually prefer to be referred to as they, so I'll probably accidentally say he, but this person does prefer they them pronouns. So forgive me if I slip out of that, just out of habit. But this person, known as Ganix online, posted the confession saying that how it happened was there was another individual, security researcher by trade, who online has a number of aliases, but the one used in this context, their alias is Wacko. I don't want to use their real name, but they hacked into both Nintendo and Microsoft servers in March 2017, and then were caught in 2 months later in May 2017. They were prosecuted, ended up getting off pretty light, didn't get jail time. I hope this isn't improper to say, but it's my understanding that, no disrespect, of course, but it's my understanding that one of the reasons they were let off is because they're autistic, and the judge limited their internet use and decided that they weren't, a general threat to, society. So this person Wacko did not get jail time, fortunately, but is still...
Wacko United States or... a different country? Because I guess that would be different, I suppose, depending on how they were, or do we not know?
It was it's in the public record. I want to say British.
Okay.
Can't say that with 100% confidence because I may be forgetting. I want to say British though, but regardless. So the way it happened was this person Wacko hacked these servers and I guess had a particular interest in Pokemon. The most the most sought after, maybe legendary demo of all time in all video games is the Space World 1997 demo of Gold and Silver, which is, rumors been going around for years of people drawing what they saw, fan art saying, I saw Pokemon that looked like this. It was in the release version, and it gotten kind of legendary over the past 20 years or so. So that was, I guess, kind of top priority for Wacko. So what Wacko did was there's a Discord server that a lot of kind of, prototype beta content enthusiasts use, called a Pret Discord server. And so Wacko created like an alternate account, an anonymous account, dropped off the ROM for the Space World demo, and with a limit of 20 downloads, and then turned around and logged into his regular account along with Ganix, the person who made this confession, has relayed this story to us. They both got 2 of those 20 downloads. It's like, ooh, who dropped this off, pretending that it wasn't them who done it. And then those 20 people became what's now known as Team Space World. They pulled in a few other translators and people like that. And they dissected the demo, and that's how we came to know what was in the demo. So this essentially Ganix and Wacko were lying about not knowing where it came from because they knew exactly where it came from. And it was shortly after that, I believe, if I'm getting my timeline right, that Wacko was caught and prosecuted, is now under limited internet access. And then Wacko gave a bunch of the other prototype beta assets to Ganix, who distributed some of it to Helix Chamber, the Gen 1 stuff.
Sure.
Eventually leaked the Gen 4 stuff on 4chan. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the story, which is it all came from that Nintendo hack. Person was prosecuted, and it's my understanding that there is still a lot more of the stuff that came from that hack that has not been made public. And I would imagine some Gen 3 stuff would be in there, and who knows what else. Probably lots of non-Pokemon stuff, I'm sure. Microsoft actually was also hacked, but I guess we'll just stick with Pokemon for this conversation. So there's still a lot more out there. Some of it I've heard rumblings about, and some that I'm sure I have no idea about. So it's been an exciting time to be in the, beta content Pokemon biz, and so much has come out of that leak, out of that hack, and I think there's still more to come probably in the next coming years.
Specifically for like the Gen 4 stuff, is there still stuff coming, or does everything that you have up here kind of all of it, or was there so much that we're like slowly filtering through?
As far as the Gen 4, I'm pretty sure the only thing that hasn't been made public are a few shiny sprites. Shinies of sprites that were already in the leak. Ganix actually gave those to me, but I haven't published them because I was kind of afraid I'd be crossing the line, and maybe I would be open to some legal prosecution.
Yeah, I was gonna.
They're just shiny.
I was gonna ask that if you feel like you're in this weird middle ground where somebody was already prosecuted about having this information, and now you're publishing the information from, I don't even know, like first-hand, second-hand, third-hand source.
Right. So, when I'm reporting on what's been leaked, I'm pretty sure I'm legally just fine.
Right.
But if I'm the first person to publish these hacked sprites, then I'm not a lawyer, and I don't really have a lawyer. So, I feel like that would probably be crossing a line into being liable. So, I have not distributed those the hacked shiny sprites from the Gen 4 leak. Okay,
so like with the Gen 4 leak again, is there anything else here that signifies like why this stuff was cut? I mean, we have the different Charizards, the different Psyducks, the different Pikachus. Again, I guess going back to and I forgive me because I'm not a hacker either, but is like there's something like notes or something that were also pulled that maybe we'll save this for later, or maybe this just isn't ready?
I don't think there were any notes extracted from the hack. Someone, again, like I said, 4chan does serve its purpose despite using some naughty words. But someone on 4chan did point out, and I included this in one of my 2 articles covering that Gen 4 leak. There's an issue of Koro magazine from shortly before Gen 4's release, where they quote Game Freak saying that all Pokemon will have gender differences, or at least most of them will have gender differences. Of course, in the release version, I think it was something like 80 of the 400 something odd Pokemon ended up with gender differences, and now this leak gives us a peek at what they were thinking when they were considering giving nearly every Pokemon gender differences. And I speculated in my article as far as why they would throw out that idea, which is probably just that they realized it was a lot of extra work to make all these animated sprites with 2 of each one. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it probably wouldn't have sold any extra copies. No one was going to say, ooh, I'll buy that new Pokemon game because of the gender differences. I wouldn't think that they would make a big difference in sales. And then, I'm sure they're probably looking to the future when it was time to make 3D models in future generations. And they're thinking, do we really want to have, 1,000 Pokemon, 2 versions of every one, making all this extra work for ourselves and not really making any extra money? And at that point, they decided to sharply curb their idea of giving so many Pokemon gender differences. That's my theory.
It is cool to see how, this definitely seemed pretty ambitious. And as somebody who, like me primarily, I love collecting Pokemon. I'm the dude that I was like, well, I need every Alcremie form, so that's 63, not including shiny. So I guess this is what I'm doing.
Right, I'm one of the guys who collects them all, not one of the one who maxes out his stats. I'm
right.
All about getting a full living Pokedex.
Yeah, you're pretty confident in this reporting. You're pretty confident of everything that you you reported on here. How does that tie in then with some of the the other stuff? Like, I guess jumping a little bit back to the Space World stuff with all those baby Pokemon that were cut, like Baby Meowth or the evolution of Farfetch. Is it kind of just the same situation? These things were just cut. We don't really have a reason for it besides, maybe it was too much work, or maybe they didn't have the space, or maybe they didn't have the time. Or is that a slightly different story?
It's kind of different in different cases. So like for Space World demo, originally Junichi Masuda, the series director, has said that they worked after they completed Red and Green. They were working on blue, yellow, gold, and silver all simultaneously. And they were originally planning on gold and silver to launch in 1998. The Space World demo was exhibited in November 97. So I think at that point they were thinking it wasn't far off. Things ended up getting delayed, and man, I could really go into this pretty deep. I was trying not to be too long-winded here, but it basically ended up getting delayed. And in that time, because Ken Sugimori, the lead monster designer and art director, he's said that in Gen 2 they made several hundred Pokemon, but they cut most of them, or they just, didn't use most of them and just whittled it down to 100. So I think the Space World demo is something like a snapshot in time when they thought that they'd be releasing the game fairly soon. These were sort of like the top 100 Pokemon that they'd come up with at that point. And then the games ended up getting delayed. It took 2 years. And so by that time, they'd had another top 100. And they decided, I would assume, we don't need 17 baby Pokemon in this list of new 100 Pokemon. So let's whittle it down to 7.
Yeah.
I'm sure each Pokemon that was cut had various, reasonings. But I think it mostly just comes down to those were the 100 best they had at the time, and then 2 years later they had another top 100 list.
You heard it here first. Quillfish 100 best.
You got me right in the middle of it. Drink of coffee there.
There's a lot of debate about shiny colors and how they were just automatically generated back in the day, and they weren't like hand picked. I think at one point somebody said they started hand picking shinies in like Gen 5, maybe.
Actually, that's a good thing to bring up, because actually I'd been misinformed about this for a long time, because I'd read, all over the internet that they were determined by some kind of, I've heard algorithm or just automatic palette swap or something to that effect. And basically that they weren't manually chosen. I'd read that for a long time. And, supposedly it wasn't until they moved to 3D models or sometime around that time period that they started hand picking them. But I just recently actually was corrected by a former Team Space World member. He goes by the name Rom Hacking Carrot. That's his online alias. He was in Team Space World, and he is a Gen 2 disassembler. He makes ROM hacks of Gen 2, that kind of thing. So he is one of those people who's, spinning around in his computer chair, hacking into games, not into servers, but he told me this. I later had it confirmed by someone else with the technical know-how, that there is the, internal data does show that they were handpicked from the very start. The only time that they were determined by some kind of a palette swap was in the Space World demo. But in the Gen 2 release version, Gold and Silver, they were manually chosen, and they always have been. Although they did reuse some palettes, which is why sometimes you'll see, this blue Pokemon and this blue Pokemon both have pink shinies. In those instances, it's a matter of them sort of maybe lazily reusing those palettes.
Yeah,
but they actually did manually. The developers did choose every Pokemon shiny color from the very start. But and also after they told me this, I looked and compared some sprites from different generations. Even in Gen 2, you look at say like Meowth, Ampharos, and I think it was Raikou were the 3 examples I posted on Twitter, where their main color is all yellow, but they're all different colors, and their shiny colors are all different, which would seem to back up these ROM hackers' claims that they're not predetermined palette swaps. You know, that yellow is always green or that blue is always pink or what have you.
So one of the newer articles you have, sorry, we're jumping around. One of the newer articles you have talks about the Gen 5 starters.
Right.
I thought that was a pretty good read.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was so in Japan they have a magazine called Nintendo Dream, which is kind of like the Japanese version of what we used to have in the US called Nintendo Power. Except they had, more of a direct connection to people like Game Freak or Nintendo, whereas Nintendo Power was more not as closely connected, just because people weren't connected. Japan and America weren't as connected by things like the internet and so forth in the 90s. But anyway, so Nintendo Power back around the time of Gen 5's release did a series of interviews over the course of several magazines with Ken Sugimori and a couple other Pokemon designers who basically described the design origins of most of the Gen 5 Pokemon, about 110 of them or so out of the 156. So there's really some interesting information in there. They describe some scrapped Pokemon. They describe some early designs of Pokemon that did make it into the game. For example, you said earlier that you're really into pronouncing Pokemon names right. I always mispronounce them wrong, so you'll have to forgive me. But just because all this stuff I read on the internet or I'm playing the game, I read the name and I don't really watch the anime, so I'll say the names wrong 99% of the time. So forgive me.
No worries.
But so he says Dwebble and Ken Sugimori says that Dwebble and Crustle were originally furnace Pokemon with shells made out of ceramic pottery, kiln-fired pottery. And presumably would have been half fire type, although he doesn't say that necessarily. But as furnace Pokemon, I would assume that it's likely that they would have been at least half fire. And
yeah, I feel like that makes sense.
I also have kind of a pet theory that the reason that Dwebble's shiny is red is kind of a callback to, I would imagine he was probably originally red as a furnace Pokemon. He doesn't say that, Ken Sugimori doesn't say that, but I think that's probably safe assumption that they were red fire Pokemon. But anyway, so Ken Sugimori and these other two developers talk about basically the development of most of the Gen 5 Pokemon. They say that Ambor is based on Zhang Fei from the Chinese epic Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Zhang Fei is kind of like a drunken general who ends up getting assassinated by his own soldiers. He also says that the three starter lines in Gen 5 are meant to represent Japan, China, and the West, with Superior being a European knight, Ambor, of course, being a Chinese general, and actually not Samurott, but Duat is meant to be a samurai. They also go into how when they were making up the otter family that is the Oshawott line, how it was kind of coincidental. They didn't want to just make bigger and bigger otters, and so one of the designers went to the zoo to see otters to come up with some ideas, and there just happened to be a live sea lion show next to the otter exhibit, and so he was like, what if we had the otter evolve into a sea lion? Which I think, from what I can tell from Twitter, most people don't really like that idea, but that's how it ended up happening.
Samurott is not really loved that much, unfortunately.
When I've tweeted about this how this visit to the zoo ended up leading to Samurott, I always get comments, something like, I wish the zoo had been closed that day, or something along those lines.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if you've ever seen Digimon or whatnot, but Golemon, which is an otter-like Digimon, evolves into Ikakumon, which looks very much like Samurott. So when I kind of put those two together, I'm not sure if that's like those designs are based off something reminiscent of a creature in Japanese lore, but I was like, okay, I can accept Samurott a lot more, seeing that it's kind of very similar to this like Digimon family. But again, there's like I don't think Game Freak would ever talk about that or say that, but
I would like to point out that Game Freak is very. This was sort of unusual. Like I said, I got my hands on these old Japanese magazines and paid a translator to translate them into English, and I put them on my website. But other than a few exceptions, Game Freak is usually very secretive about what influenced what Pokemon's design or the design process. This is kind of interesting. A few months back, James Turner?
Yes, love James Turner.
He was the art director on Sword and Shield. He's been with Game Freak since Gen 5. A few months ago, I went through his entire Twitter history and searched through every tweet he'd ever made looking for development information. And he'd said, for example, again, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Naganadel. Is that right?
Naganadel.
Naganadel, okay.
Because it's supposed to be Naga and then needle, but yeah, Naganadel. Okay. It's look, the anime said it. I'm just repeating it. I said it wrong. I said it wrong for like 2 years, but yeah, Naganadel.
Okay, well, yeah, he said that Naganadel, someone on Twitter had asked him about Naganadel. He'd said like, I was going for a really sleek alien design. I was very influenced by H.R. Geiger. Or he said his exact words were, I'm a big H.R. Geiger fan. H.R. Geiger's most famous for being the guy who designed the alien, for the xenomorph from the Alien movies. And he also said that earlier in development, Naganadel had legs that eventually got removed from his design. And yeah, it seemed pretty clear that he drew inspiration from H.R. Geiger and probably the xenomorph specifically from those Alien films over the course of the processes of designing Naganadel. So I pulled about 50 or so quotes of that kind of development information from his Twitter, and then I started sharing them. One day I'd do a couple quotes about Naganadel, another day I'd do this and that, some stuff I pulled from his Twitter. And then I later, someone asked me like, oh, do you have a source for that quote? I was like, oh yeah, I'll pull it up for you. And I realized that tweet had been deleted.
Oh,
and then I realized
really?
all the tweets I'd quoted had been deleted, and that I looked on Social Blade and I realized that the day after I had quoted, because I'd pulled all the quotes all together and put them in a Word document. But so fortunately I still have them. But apparently the day after I had posted the first of those development quotes from James Turner's Twitter, he'd gone through his whole Twitter feed himself right after I'd gone through all of it. And he went and deleted all that kind of information.
Interesting. You know what's funny is I asked James Turner, it was about Poipole and Naganadel. I asked him shortly after Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out with zero expectation of him responding. I asked him, because this was going back to the shiny thing we brought up earlier. I was like, hey, do you know who, like, I know you made Poipole and Naganadel, that you've cited that, but did you make their shinies? And he replied to me pretty quickly and he said, yeah, I made their shinies and I wanted them to look like hornets. So that's why I decided on the yellow and black. Now I'm like super curious if he deleted that tweet.
That's funny. That was one of the quotes that I copy pasted. Was his response to you apparently.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny! Holy cow! I think I still have the tweet. I screenshotted it because I was like, oh my gosh, James Turner replied to me. This is so cool.
You should probably hold on to that because I'm pretty certain it was one. I pulled from about 50, and I saw that. The day after I started quoting his tweets, he deleted 100 tweets. So I checked about a half dozen. All the half dozen that I'd used were deleted. So I would assume he deleted all the ones I took, plus about another 50 that, he also wanted to get rid of. Although I guess that I didn't think were valuable enough to copy paste. But I think he probably deleted his response to your tweet at this point.
Dang it. I'm so very flattered that he tweeted at me. He's like one of my favorite artists in Pokemon for sure. Like I love all his designs.
Well, hold on to it because I've covered lost Pokemon history. In this case, that is definitely, you could consider that lost Pokemon history at this point since it was deleted by James Turner. So you played a role in getting a little bit of information out of him, and then I guess Game Freak later came and said like, hey, some dick. I swore.
It's all good.
some jerk on Twitter has been quoting your stuff you shouldn't have said, so go through your Twitter history and delete all that development information. So you got it out of him, and then he later was told to delete it. So good work.
I think the only thing that this solidifies is we probably can't get away with asking him any questions anymore.
Probably not. Not of that sort.
That's such a bummer.
But we can talk a little bit more about kind of like translations and stuff while we're on the topic.
Yeah, so what's interesting is like you're paying somebody to translate this stuff for you. And I kind of always wondered this with, you know, like Cerebi and with Bulbapedia, you know, being these two big resources in the Pokemon world. I hate saying this because I know it's not true, but the question would be, does the Japanese audience not care about this? Do they not have their own Pokemon sites where they're easily translating their own magazines that they're getting? As like, I feel like that has to exist somewhere, right?
I would think so. Although, you know, I don't speak Japanese, so I can't just surf around the web as easily as I'd like to. Although I live in China. I have for about 10 years, and I've gotten pretty good at searching for things in other languages that I don't fully understand. So from what I can tell, it's not very well documented. For example, the way I originally found out about those Nintendo Dream magazine issues that talk about the Gen 5 origins was there was a now defunct but still on the Wayback Machine Japanese language blog where someone had transcribed those interviews from the magazine. And Bulbapedia, as they sometimes do, they'll cite Japanese language stuff, and then I guess someone said, oh, it says this in English, so it's untranslated. They use it as a source, and in this case I went and had that source translated. But actually, more recently, after I'd actually bought the magazines, I realized that a lot of what this person had transcribed was actually summaries, not actual quotes. And so maybe he'd summarized a paragraph into a couple sentences. So I actually ended up having to get a lot of that stuff retranslated. But as far as I can tell, even in Japanese, a lot of it's not too well documented, which, it makes it necessary to actually go find the actual magazines or, other primary source documents and actually get a professional to translate them. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's a super good source of like a Japanese person who's actually collected that in one place. So, there's a lot of work to be done.
Sure, there's tons of hardcore Japanese Pokemon fans that have every magazine sitting in a closet. You just have to find those people.
Right. So, like, just this past week, there was a similar thing where I was bumping around on Bulbapedia and I found like a source, or they cited a source, but there was no, it wouldn't hold up in a college level essay. It was just said like, well, it says this in this book, but there's no page number, there's no translation, there's no direct quote. It just said like, this is mentioned in this book. It was the book was an autobiography of, I'm not going to try and say her name, but she's the host of Pokemon Sunday, and she's a voice actress who does spiky-eared Pikachu, Shoko something. Anyway, in her autobiography, it says, as something I'm going to tweet about tomorrow, it says that spiky-eared Pikachu was originally supposed to be White Pikachu. Oh. And that they were planning on releasing like a White Pichu branded white cream soup. Because
this doesn't surprise me. They released some real weird Pokemon food.
Right. So the Japanese the words for spiky eared or for White Pichu and white cream soup are almost identical. There's like one letter difference, and so like, oh, well, if we're gonna make White Pikachu, we can just start selling white soup, put White Pichu on it. But they ended up. It's kind of complicated. They ended up scrapping that idea and going for spiky-eared Pichu, and that was based off of the girl who does one of the voice actors is always making typos, and basically one of the typos that she was always making, the word is originally big, but she made a typo which translates to like spiky or spiky-eared, something to that effect. And so they said, oh, she's always making those typos. Let's use that typo. Oh, spiky-eared Pikachu. Yeah, let's do spiky-eared Pichu. Yeah, let's do that. There's actually concept art. I've got photos of her, the girl, the typo girl, with official concept art of White Pichu. And I went and I got that book on Japanese Amazon with the help of a guy named Webster. Shout out to him. and had it translated by another friend of mine, Dogasu's Backpack. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I've heard of them,
but he's had been helping me on some translation stuff recently, finding kind of Japanese books, that kind of thing. He's great. But anyway, so I actually had to get the Japanese book, have it translated. Someone else had a picture of that concept art that they'd sent me, and kind of was able to put this whole story together about how originally they had White Pichu planned for Gen 4, and not to mention the cream soup merchandising, but they ended up throwing that idea in the trash.
This is a dumb question, but regards to the translation. So even in 2019, when Masuda and some other members of Game Freak sat on stage at E3, and they said what they needed to say about not all Pokemon coming into Sword and Shield. You had all these people on the internet saying like, they must have mistranslated it wrong, or maybe we just didn't understand. And then fast forward a couple months with the Game Informer interview where Game Informer said there was, I think 18 gyms, and then they were like, no, that was a mistranslation. Cancel only 8 gyms, only 8 gyms, only 8 gyms. Do you worry that in your end with the, people you pay for translation that, something might not be actually 100%? Maybe they got 1 or 2 words wrong or misinterpreted something?
I've gone through a few translators. There's a few people I'd used that I ended up having to throw out their translations because it just wasn't up to snuff. The people I've been using more recently, I feel pretty confident about, and I always double check key phrases. The most important parts really with other translators to make sure that, if Ken Sugimori said that, like the Hydreigon family were originally supposed to be tanks, and that the purple tread marks on their bellies and their final designs are leftovers from the tanks. That's pretty important information to make sure it's right. And so when I get that in from the translator, I'll make sure and double check that, because that's particularly important. And, if necessary, I'll, make any adjustments to the translation and then check that back with the original translators. There's a lot of back and forth that goes on with these translations. But fortunately, the translator I've been using more recently is really good, and is also a Pokemon fan herself. So that helps a lot, because I've learned that in the past, that even if you have a good translator, if they don't know what Pokemon is, then there's going to be some errors, just because they don't know what a trainer is, they don't know what a Pikachu is, they don't know what leveling up is, and so forth. So
that makes sense. Can we bring up something that was a little bit controversial here? And sure. Bulbapedia has since corrected. Forgive me, I'm so bad at saying Japanese names. You know exactly where I'm going to go with this. Saito?
I would mispronounce it myself. I would say Muneo Saito.
Okay.
But it's probably wrong too. This is the male versus female thing.
Yeah, so not only was it a male versus female thing, but I don't know what happened, somewhere in the last 20 some years where people think that a saber-toothed tiger is a dog, and so the other two are also a dog. Ken Sugimori, I think, on Twitter, who then asked the creator of Entei, Suicune, and Raikou, what their thought process was, and they tweeted about it. And I saw this over a year ago. I think it was a Reddit thread that, somebody took they screenshotted all the conversation, put it in a giant image, and you recently just tweeted about it. And for whatever reason, Bulbapedia said she instead of he. So there's kind of like a lot to unwrap here. One, that Bulbapedia said she for several years. And two, that, even after you tell fans that, they said for the most part that, they're based off a lion and a tiger and stuff, that people still are like, well, I'm calling them dogs.
Right.
It's very weird.
It is pretty weird. Yeah, someone had sent me that Reddit thread that was like a copy paste and translation of a Twitter conversation between, I get like 5 social medias all mixed up. Yeah, I've seen that conversation between Sugimori and Saito. I'd originally was talking, I referred to Saito as a girl, and some people said, no, it's a he. And then I started saying, next time I said, he. And people were like, no, it's she. But anyway, at this point, I've got
that was like my week last week when your tweet, or not last week, but the week before, I was like, well, I've always known it as a girl, and they're saying he. Is it? Then I started saying he, and the people were like, not to she, because it's on Bulbapedia, and I was like, I feel like Lava probably did more research than I did on this.
Wow, some other people told me, because there's several Game Freak developers who are really hard to find pictures or even any information about them. There's several that just don't have. They're just not on Google Images. They're not anywhere. Someone did end up, the Japanese person did end up sending me pictures of Mineo Saito, and it is definitely a dude. And there's some other stuff, like in some Game Freak documents, they list all the staff who worked on this particular project. They listed them all as male or female, and Saito's listed as a male, so it's definitely a dude. Say that with confidence now, but because it says on Bulbapedia, anytime
they have updated
he
it.
Or she. Oh, they have. Okay.
As of February 12th, it says he has worked for Game Freak, so I'm not sure when that happened. But I guess somebody probably saw that conversation from you recently, because when you tweeted that, which again was like maybe a week or two ago of this conversation, it still said she.
I think it was probably, there's a Bulbapedia moderator who's an absolute rock star. He knows a lot of time I'll have a question, I'll go to him. But he just has all these weird Japanese books and maps and all kinds of stuff that I didn't even know existed. And I'll have a question. He'll have like a pile of documents he'll go through just to confirm whether this map should be considered canon or not. But anyway, there's Snorlax Monster as a Bulbapedia moderator that I'm friends with. And
we've had him on the show before. He's great.
Oh yeah, he's great. And he's probably the one who updated that. He's really good.
But you're gonna keep on, I guess, reporting on old Pokemon stuff for the time being. I see. I don't think you're gonna. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're not. It doesn't sound like you're gonna stop looking for magazines in the future here.
No, I'm all about that old news.
So, for our listeners, where can they find your stuff? I know you have YouTube, you have your website, you have your Twitter. If there's any one that you want to maybe shout out that you missed in our almost 90-minute conversation?
YouTube and Twitter. I'm Dr. Lava's Lost Pokemon. And my website is Lava Cut Content. And cover the kind of stuff that we've been talking about. Japanese content, translations, cut content, beta material, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having you on. If, in a month or so you have more news and you still can't leave your house, we can definitely have you back on for sure.
That sounds great, because they're saying it's going to be 2 or 3 months until it's safe to go outside. So
it's actually unreal.
I'd love to come back on.
Well, I'll love to have you on. All the links for Lava Cut content will be in the show notes. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do our Pokemon of the week and our question of the week. So we will be back in a second.
Announcement. Are you prepared for a very important announcement?
Yes.
It comes with a musical accompaniment. It's the first time I've sung on such a major international stage. It goes. Do you recognize it?
No.
It is the intro to my new podcast, Katamari Cast, Let's Roll Up Together.
The show.
We are back. Pokemon Home. Sensation of the week. Some issues that we talked about last week. There were some good things we talked about last week. They have updated the app 3 times since we last talked. If you are on iOS, they updated it 4 times. If you're on Android, because the last update 1.0.8 is specifically only for Android. I believe it had to do with like 32-bit devices. I think so. iOS never got 1.0.8. I'm assuming they update it again. Both versions will go to 1.0.9. Has your opinions on Home changed at all since the updates? And since it's now been more than a week since the service has come out?
I mean, my opinion, the updates have not had any influence on my opinion. I did upload, so I'm being very cautious because I just want to control my Pokemon experience pretty strongly. And what I don't want to happen, because I just recall with Pokemon Bank, with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, was you could synchronize your Pokemon Bank with those games, and then it would say, oh, you've already completed the national dex because you have it all up in Bank. And like, I don't want that to accidentally happen with Pokemon Sword, because right now I am going through and building a living dex in Pokemon Sword, because that's actually fun for me to do. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that. So I uploaded my current living dex, which is up through Melmetal, into Pokemon Home. It actually, I mean, it's gone okay. The boxes, there's like on the mobile phone, it's odd, but it's not the end of the world. Just like they have the for some reason they have like a list of bank or not. They have like home boxes, and now I just had it open in front of me and I closed it.
Are you talking about the labels? Because they label your home boxes, or they label the boxes that come from banks, so you can find them easier when you deposit them.
Yeah, so I have like Bank 1 through 27, although they're, Bank 1 through 27, but they're in descending order for whatever reason. And then I have like Home 1 through Infinity and on, which for some reason, like, even though I uploaded the Pokemon into Pokemon Home in a very orderly fashion, they're not in any order in the Home.
So Home defaults, because it's like Go, it defaults to like the default view is the last 30 that you deposited.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
Guess that makes sense, because if you just deposited, you probably want to know where they went. Maybe.
Well, so now, like, my box, like, if I'm on my phone, which I am, and I go into box Home 1, right? Yep. Okay, so that's organized right. Okay, so it's Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. It's all good. But I don't. Where's Meltan and Melmetal? They got lost.
Well, they do have. I mean, Meltan is 808 and Melmetal is 809.
But they're not there. They're not in order anymore. Even though when I look at the other ones, they are in order.
So I didn't realize this from last week, Greg. I don't know if this answers your question, but okay, so I have a minor complaint here. I'm sure they can fix this, but it really bothers me that I can't reorder my labels. Because I have I have labels for like 2012 event, 2013 event, 2018 event, 2015 event. They're in the wrong order. And then I have different labels for so a lot of those events are mythicals, but I also have a label for all my mythicals, which apparently I have 74 of, that I can just find. So I can look at all my mythicals at once by clicking the mythical label. Or if I want to look at these are the Pokemon I specifically got during 2016 events, I can click on that. But then under all the labels, it does show the boxes. So my first box is 001 to 030, and then 031 to 060. So it does show you all the boxes that you have. And then eventually it gets to Home 10, Home 11, Home 12, because I haven't renamed those boxes. So does that not solve the issue you're looking for? Because I can click on 001 to 030, and now I can see that box of those 30 Pokemon. Yeah, they're in Pokedex order too.
So let me say something really nice about Pokemon Home. One thing that they did that no Pokemon game, as far as I know, has done before, and it's something that I've wanted for a very long time. If the Pokemon is shiny, when I'm looking at it in the box view, I see the shiny colors.
Yes, that is very nice.
Which,
well, when you said no Pokemon game has ever done, Pokemon Go says hi.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was going to say a game with Pokemon I care about, but let's not be so harsh.
To answer your question, has my experience gotten better? Was that your question?
I guess that was the original question, yeah.
No?
Okay.
I mean,
I do like the graphics for the Pokemon too, the drawings that they've made.
Yeah, official really nice. 2D art.
Yeah.
The problems that exist before still exist. There's still some questions about Like, why is my day counter and the challenge is not counting up? Like, there's still a bunch of bugs, which is fine. Everything has bugs. Are we ready for my PSA? Because this is my PSA.
Yes, I would love to hear your PSA.
All right, dear users of the internet, if a person on the GTS has put up a Vivillon and is asking for a Vivillon back, they are not looking for the exact same form that they're sending out. Nobody is gaining anything if I'm sending you a Japanese form butterfly and you send me back the same Japanese form butterfly.
You can see which Vivillon it is, right?
Not when I send it. Yeah, you can look at it. I don't know. I'm like, who are you people that are like, oh, I'll trade you the exact same Vivillon for... Who's winning in that trade? No one. That's not why that's up there.
Oh, man.
Also, just Pokemon Company, I know you're listening. Please put something in that if somebody checks Venusaur from level 1 to 10 that can't exist, tell it to say no.
Spoiler, it can, technically. Because of Pokemon Go, you can have like a level 5 Charizard.
But we can't access it yet, right?
You can through Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. So if somebody caught a wild level 5 Charizard, they can move it through Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee into Pokemon Home. I didn't think about that until somebody brought it up.
Yeah, but like Gen 5 isn't in there.
Oh, yeah, sure. Like, you can't get like
I don't have a problem if suddenly something becomes available and they say, hey, we're going to check this out and check it off. Great. All the people that are asking for level 1 to 10 Vivillon, they don't exist. They can't exist. It doesn't evolve to level 12.
Yes.
And for your own server space and for people trying to search anything, just say those things aren't possible. Because you had put up a Ditto, right?
I put up a Ditto. A level 56 Ditto that I caught in Cerulean Cave in Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. I put up a Ditto and I asked for a Vivillon.
And I have one. I got a bunch of Japanese ones because people are trading me the exact same ones over and over and over again. Do you think I could find your Ditto amongst all the people asking for things that are not possible?
No one could find
Heck
my Ditto.
No. I searched by every option, and because it fills up so fast with a lot of stuff that can't happen. Like, I went through, this is how far I went to try to figure it out. I did level range, game it came from, and I couldn't find it. Because you can select those as filtering options, and it wasn't there. But everybody else asking for things that didn't exist sure were. It's just a very frustrating that...
Well, I think the more frustrating thing that we talked about last week was that it was, hey, I'm looking for a Zeraora, but I'm only offering a Weedle.
Right.
And they fixed that. That was actually one of the first things that they fixed after the podcast, obviously because they listened to the podcast.
Obviously.
But you can't trade mythical Pokemon anymore. And you could never trade mythical Pokemon, which we talked about last week. The reason that mythical Pokemon... You can always trade a mythical Pokemon to somebody in the same room as you, locally, through a link cable or through IR or through Wi-Fi or whatever. When Greg was here, like a year ago, I traded him a Meloetta that I got from the World Championship, and you traded me, I think, Victini or something I was missing.
Yeah.
Something I was missing. But we traded mythical Pokemon. That works. On the GTS... mythical Pokemon have ribbons that prevent them from being traded. Ideally, the Cherish Ball also. You're not supposed to be able to trade Cherish Ball Pokemon through the GTS, but it's the ribbon itself that prevents the trade. It's usually like celebratory ribbon or ribbon of event. In X and Y and Sun and Moon, the GTS had a bunch of mythical Pokemon that you could trade, but they were all hacked or PK hacks because they were missing the ribbon. So when those people created the Pokemon from scratch in their third-party program, they just didn't include the ribbon, which allowed it to be traded. So it's like one way to tell if your Pokemon was authentic. Is it the correct OT? Is it the correct ID numbers? Does it even have the ribbon? If you can just say no to all of those because if you got it Wonder traded to you, it had to not have the ribbon to arrive to you. So they pretty much turned off all mythical stuff.
Yeah,
in the update.
I mean, it can't be traded, but you can still request that to be sent to you.
Yeah, but let those people waste their 3 requests and not go anywhere.
But it gunks up the search,
yeah,
right?
I'm sure it does.
It just gunks up the works.
Well, it ruins the user experience, is what it is.
Yeah, and so it's just like if mythicals can't be traded through the GTS
or Wonder
don't have that a selectable option. Just get rid of it. Just get rid of it.
Legendaries are still broken. For some reason, if you toggle don't search by legendaries, type null and the Tapus are still showing, even if you have that on and off. So that's still broken as of this podcast.
Yep.
Mythicals can no longer be room traded. That was part of the other thing. So again, I don't. There needs to be like what Pokemon Go did, where Niantic was like, okay, you can trade 1 legendary a day. You got to be local. You're not allowed to trade mythicals. You can trade, like, there needs to be some almost like a checklist of like what is allowed and what is not allowed, because now we have multiple ways between Pokemon Go, Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, Wonder Trade, Room Trade, Surprise Trade, GTS. What can be traded where? We need a list. If they came out and they were like, hey, this is what we're doing. Mythicals can only be traded when you're standing next to a person. I'm sure like that would be probably upsetting to a lot of people, but at least we know. And if they were like, hey, legendaries can be traded with friends, whether that is through the GTS or through Wonder Trade or through whatever, cool. But you're only allowed 1 a day. And if you have 800 Trubbish, trade to your heart's content on everything in the world. But but like that's the frustrating part right now for people is they want to get the Magearna of different color. So like I'm sure they will release more mythical Pokemon as we go. If I was missing Victini, I don't have a way to put Victini into Sword and Shield to trade a friend.
Yep.
So the only way I can trade Victini is by standing next to a friend, and I can trade them a Victini. They can then register it in their national decks. They can then apply to get the Magearna, which hopefully is still not fully fixed, but they get the Magearna for having a complete dex. Then they trade me the Victini back, and we're good. And I personally don't have a problem with that because, like, at the end of the day, that's what Pokemon Go Pokemon was always is like. You gotta make friends to trade.
Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah, but if they really want to keep mythical Pokemon special.
Greg, I saw you trade 20 Pokemon with somebody just this Thursday night, and that somebody was a friend of yours. So don't say nobody does that anymore.
I made that friend before making that trade. I didn't make that friend while making those trades.
Look, true. If I met some random person and they were like, hey, can I borrow your Victini? I'd be like, maybe not. But if it was a genuine friend and that they were missing like 3 mythical Pokemon and we met each other at PAX, like finally, hey, we've known each other for 2 years. I know you're only missing Zeraora and Victini. Let me trade these real quick. Cool, you got me your Magearna. Thanks for those back. I'm so happy I was able to help you. Like that is a situation I want to happen, and it can happen. But there's this vagueness of like, Game Freak, what would you like us players to do? Like list out what your overview of this service should be, because now people are like, how are we supposed to trade these things? If you want us to trade them in person and you want these to be special, just say that. Just come out and say like, hey, this is our goal going forward. Here are the expectations we are setting.
And if you put an exclamation point saying I've completed a challenge, but when I go in the challenges, you haven't put an exclamation point on the one that I've completed, I still don't know what I just did.
I think the challenges and the news, that is the thing that's broken. Because I've noticed people who can't get Magearna, even if they have a complete national dex, their challenges say they've only checked the app on day 1. So those two problems seem to be together, the challenges and the Magearna seem to be the current most broken thing.
I've literally used Pokemon Home every day because I've been trying to get my Vivillon Dex forms, which, again, guess what, kids? I just got a same form for a same form. It's maddening. It's the worst. It's the worst. Stop doing this to me. But, like, it doesn't move forward. And I have people who are like, oh, I'll just borrow your Zeraora and I'll give it right back. And I'm like, I don't want to give it to you and
it not work.
Have to it not work, or you have to hold on to it for a month until this gets fixed. I'm not going to give anything that I only have one copy of until I know this is fixed, until this is actually going to reward you with the thing that you want. And I don't like, and it could be my game. Like, I'm stuck. A lot of my things are stuck on day one, like, but a lot of them aren't. Like, I just did another 20 Wonder Trades, and that Wonder Trade count went up, but my days haven't. It's so, like, I get that there's bugs, and there's always going to be bug problems, but I would just like to know...
Core functionality to function?
I would just like to know before, like, is it a bug on my end? Should I be submitting a bug report? Is this a well-known issue? Is this... it's not been a long time, which is fine. But, like, I can't give 100% thumbs up on it when I'm still feeling really uneasy with a lot of the core function.
Yeah.
And I use it a lot. Like, people are, like, upset or whatever that I'm not having an ideal time with Home. It hasn't stopped me from using it. It didn't stop me from paying for it, so they've got my money. I just wish that I had more faith in it. Like, sitting in your stream and doing a 20-room trade was fun.
Yeah, I really like room trade. I think it's cool.
But
until somebody comes in and they're like, I got more I got more shiny hose where that is, and it's like, oh, okay, dude, no, you don't.
Yeah, like,
Please
there's
leave.
no control over it, and it's fun. It's fun because I know somebody who's doing that for entertainment. Is a novel. Like, if I was sitting at Gen Con, I'm not jumping into a bunch of randos room trade screen to be like, let's zip, let's send whatever. Like, it's a weird function that's fun in a very specific use case. Like, and I sat out there and gave out a bunch of my hidden ability Rosalias, and then, when I got the Litten from you, I backed out, and then when you do it again, I run in and give away a few more. Like, it's fun to send those things out, but it's, like, not a thrilling function.
It is definitely, well, because the timers on the room trade are so high, it's like definitely
they're so long.
Well, we got about 6 minutes before this Pokemon even starts to be traded, so
right.
What would you like
countdown
to talk about?
Is there no way to say, hey, it's full, skip to the next step?
No, so there's two countdowns. The first countdown is it's 200 seconds or whatever, which is the room
everybody
filling
get
up
in the room.
And then that timer doesn't start until the host picks their Pokemon. And once the host picks their Pokemon, the room closes, and then everyone else then a new timer starts of 200 seconds, which is everyone else picking their Pokemon. But once everyone picks their Pokemon, the timer still goes, which I can kind of see as understandable, because, like, if you were the last person to pick and then you selected the wrong Pokemon, you don't want to be locked into that. But there almost needs to be like once everyone picks, now we've dropped the timer to 10 seconds, and that gives any people an option to be like, oh, let me reselect, which then extends the length. Because there was lots of times where everyone picked and we were still waiting like 85 seconds.
I mean, like, 3 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, why can't it be like the raid battles where it's like once everybody says, I'm good, then it goes?
Oh, in like Sword and Shield, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, the timers are just really long. I was thinking, because what are the raid timers in Pokemon Go? They're only like...
Well, it depends. I think 5 stars have longer timers than like 1 and 2 stars. I think.
And even then, I'm like, okay, come on. Nobody more is coming. Let's go. It's full. There's 20.
If you're listening and you're having some errors, this is off support.pokemon.com. So if you're having error 8807, this occurs with an issue of Pokemon Home save data on your device. So you have to delete the save data, restart Pokemon Home to resolve the issue. deleting Pokemon Home does not remove the Pokemon from your Pokemon Home because that's on the cloud. What you have to do is from the home menu, select system settings, scroll down to data management, press A, scroll down and highlight delete save data, press A. If you're on the Switch and you need to enter parental controls, you do that now. Select which game title you want to delete the save data for, Pokemon Home, delete it. Select the user you want to delete it for, the user that's having the issue, and then delete it. Once you do that, then re-download Pokemon Home, and it should fix that. So that's support errors 8807 if you're on, obviously, the Switch. If you're getting error 999...
And these means you just would be getting the error code, right? It's not like you're not seeing something happening. If you're getting that specific
specific error. So those are the ones that they've updated these like 10 hours ago. So these are still known errors. That's why I'm bringing them up. If you're getting error 999, this error is caused that you have one or more Pokemon you're in creation using manipulated game data. Even if you've obtained this Pokemon unintentionally, Pokemon created manipulated game data cannot be used in Pokemon Home. Okay. Because you really did.
Yeah, that's so frustrating. Like knowing that people got hacked things the first day of Wonderboxing.
Like, I don't know. They're never going to disclose what they look for in hacked Pokemon.
Right.
But so many hacked Pokemon got through. So if you're getting error 999, you probably have an obviously hacked Pokemon. Again, I don't know what they're checking for. If you have that issue, so if that Pokemon's been moved to home, if somehow it made it through, the Pokemon will cause the application to freeze or become unresponsive when you search for it. If this happens, you need to shut down and restart Pokemon Home. To resolve this problem, delete any Pokemon of this kind from home by the following steps. On the Switch, highlight the Pokemon, press X, press the A button to hold it up, highlight release, press A, just as Pokemon, release and press A. You're getting a 999, it's because of a hacked Pokemon. 888 is an issue with save data management. Those are the two most common issues according to support.pokemon.com. There was an issue that was fixed in 1.0.7, which was the Face ID issue on iOS, which when we talked about last week, Pokemon Home has flaws and it wasn't great out the gate. I had 800 people watching me on Twitch when Pokemon Home came out, which is in the grand scheme of things, 800 people out of probably 1 million plus people that downloaded this game or application is very small, but I'm not exaggerating. With the amount of people that came into stream, they couldn't find the app. And when they didn't get the app, they couldn't log into the app. And in retrospect, I'm thinking, like, if you don't use Twitter,
right,
and you don't use Twitch, and you just play Pokemon, and this was your first experience of like, how am I can't log into this app. I can't link my Nintendo account. Like, there was no support articles at the time. No, like even Sarah B wasn't reporting on how to fix this issue, but I've figured it out with my community, which is if you were trying to log in via Face ID, it would fail. And the only way to get past it was to manually type your password. You couldn't copy and paste it. You couldn't Face ID it. You just had to type it in yourself and it will work. And they fixed it. It's fixed now. And it took them a week to fix it. But if you didn't try that, if you're just using Face ID on iOS because it's worked for everything else and it doesn't work for this, and you reset your password, you did everything else, none of that would have worked unless you typed your password. Which, like, I get it. That's probably like, hey, no one tested Face ID before it shipped because they probably all just typed in their, like, password 123, their test dummy accounts to make sure it worked. But, like, I helped probably 50, 60 plus people that night of just like, hey, I have iOS and I can't log in. And my question was, do you have iOS and Android? And they would say iOS. And I would say, don't use Face ID or Touch ID. And they would say, oh my gosh, that worked. Look, the Pokemon company ain't paying me to do tech support, but I was able to, I was able to help 50 plus people that night just by saying, manually type in your password. I don't know where I was going with that, but those issues in general can definitely turn somebody off to be like, well, it just doesn't work. I guess I'm not using it.
Right.
And it doesn't help that the English App Store says nothing but bug fix every time they've updated the app. Where if I go to
so frustrating when
I go to
many of them do that.
Japanese support page and I hit Google Translate, it does actually say what these issues fix. So that's how I know 1.0.7 fixed Face ID, because it literally says that in the official Japanese support page. It tells you everything they fixed, but the English page, it just says fixed bugs. Like, I don't know what the...
I mean, there may be a Japanese legal requirement that if you do update an application, you have to specify exactly what your updates are doing.
Can we get that legal requirement?
Yeah, can we, like...
Have you met our government?
Yes.
No.
But the person who updated Resolve Error 999 17 hours ago on support.pokemon.com, like, why can't they just... I don't know. It's very frustrating that, like, we're not seeing the issues being fixed.
Well, that's part of the American legal system, is never admit that you did anything wrong, ever.
just say you fixed bugs, and
yes.
You're good to go.
Yes, because nobody can sue you for an ambiguous, we fixed the bugs. They can sue you for Face ID wasn't working, and therefore I lost productivity of my job because specifically Face ID wasn't working. That's just how America works.
Well, that's all I got.
Can I do my Pokemon Home PSA right now?
Yes.
It'll be real fast.
I would love to hear it. No, you don't.
All right.
Take your time. PSA it up.
My Pokemon Home PSA comes in two parts. Part the first. If I am doing a max raid battle in Pokemon Sword and or Shield, and you show up for my max raid with your shiny Keldeo, where there has never been a shiny Keldeo possible, you're going to get banned. Number one. Part the second. If you show up for my max raid battle in Pokemon Sword and or Shield, and it's a Toxtricity, and you bring in your shiny Vileplume because you want to flex that you have a shiny Vileplume, you're going to get banned. All right, that's my PSA right there.
You're going to get banned.
It is amazing. I mean, it has calmed down, but literally, like on the first 2 or 3 days after Pokemon Home, everybody was bringing their shinies into max raids, like no matter how useless they were against the Pokemon we were max raiding against. And I was just like, I got so incredibly frustrated. And then I also discovered that, like, if I was playing during prime Japanese hours, so like early morning in the United States, the max raids were normal, and people brought normal Pokemon that would be super effective against the Pokemon we were trying to get. If I was playing in the evening, everybody was doing their shiny flexes. In all the US times, it was all shiny flexes. It was ridiculous.
It's it's like, I don't know. It's probably the same person that would also, like, they need to let you know how long their hunt was. And how many, unfortunately, they got 18 different shinies before they got this one. So they need to let you know the stress and turmoil they went through before they finally
so their name is Steve. They documented as a video and put it up on YouTube.
Nah.
Well, that's like, what's funny for me is I do my little shiny hunts on Snapchat every day. And, like, invariably, like every 3 or 4 months, somebody says, how many eggs have you hatched? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not writing down how many eggs I'm doing.
That reminds me of the one time where I like caught what legendary was it? I don't remember. It was in Pokemon Go, but I walked all the way out to the end of this park. There was a bunch of us. It might have been Armored Mewtwo or something. So we all did the raid. I caught the Mewtwo, and then as soon as I caught it, I caught like a Jigglypuff or something that was like around the gym. And this one dude looking at me, and he was like, "What IVs did you get?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You're Mewtwo. What IVs did you get?" I was like, I don't know, man. I didn't check." And he like threw up his like frustrated that I didn't know what my IVs were.
Everybody asked me, he's like, "But for Rhydon Day, whatever, yesterday," and people were like, "Did you get any 4 stars?" I'm like, I don't know. I'd never pay attention to that at all.
Like, geez, I just look. I got 3,000 plus Pokemon in my Pokemon Home. I'm not saying that to flex. I'm saying that I like to catch Pokemon, and they exist, and they're doing something. They're
generating those home points.
Yeah, they're generating those home points. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care. I was like, if I really need them for competitive purposes, I'll bottle cap them or something. I don't know what you want from me. All right, enough Pokemon Home. It's gotten 7 updates in less than 2 weeks. Pokemon Bank had only got 4 updates in 7 years, so...
They're winning on the bugs.
I guess that's better. I guess that's a good sign for the future, maybe, I suppose, that the app will only get better if they've updated it this many times this quickly. So fingers crossed that in like 2 weeks they just stop caring and never push out any updates. Greg, give us our question of the week.
Oh, friends from Slack, you know how to keep our interest peaked with your questions of the week. Let's hear the question of the week.
Yeah, I was like, let's hear the question of the week.
Sorry. This is from Jetsy. If you were getting married, who would be in your wedding party? Could be Pokemon or characters from the anime / games. 4 totals. That includes the best man / best woman.
It has to be from the series? Is this what we're saying?
Well, no.
Could be Pokemon or characters from anime / games.
Okay.
First off, this is like one of those like Zen impossible to answer questions because Steve's already married, Greg's already married, I'm unmarriable. So
okay, if suddenly characters from Pokemon and Pokemon were coming back to life or became reality, I would renew them vows.
Yeah, you can always renew your vows. You can get married again. You can get married to the same person twice, right?
I mean, I can't get married for the first time, so...
Well, maybe if there was a Lickitung standing next to you.
No, not my bag.
Only if it knows Body Slam, though.
Oh.
Is that one of its VMAX moves?
Yeah.
Wallace is in my party,
okay,
for sure. Juan is in my party for sure. Kukui's in my party for sure. Cynthia, Cynthia would RSVP but never show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got that right.
Diantha would be in my party. I would have Diantha in my party.
I mean, she's a washed up. Was she a movie star or was she a
She's
TV
a movie star.
star?
She was hardly washed up.
I don't know about that.
I mean, Roserade would be my best person. And then it would go
produce flowers like none other.
Yeah, like hello. And then it'd probably go Wallace, Kukui, Diantha. That's a good party enough. And then I would invite everybody else. I would be guilted into sending Alder an invite. I guarantee you that. Because you know Alder's gonna drink. You know it.
You're not wrong. You know, I would have to say I would probably have to bring... I can't invite Sycamore. He's too good looking of a guy. He'd be too distracting. But you would probably want to invite...
Because the bride's going to run off with Sycamore?
Yeah,
that's Mrs. Robinson situation?
That's the worry. You'd probably invite Professor Oak because he'd have some good stories to tell. For those that don't want to be on the dance floor.
He is going to complain about the food and be in bed by 8.
Oh, that's true. He might leave the party really early.
Who's going to go pick up Professor Oak, and who has to drive Professor Oak home?
Okay,
he's not that old.
I feel like I have to have Pikachu in the wedding party just because it's Pikachu.
Sell out. I have to have Brock. I have to have Brock at the wedding. The thing is, if you invite Brock at the wedding, you have to assign somebody to keep an eye on Brock. Because he is that guy at the wedding that is hoping to make the connection at your wedding and is making everybody uncomfortable.
Yeah. Or Brock's going to be the one who's like during your reception proposes to...
He's one of those people.
Yeah.
He is one of those people.
Have you guys ever been to a wedding where somebody pulled that?
Oh, heck no.
Oh, yes.
I
absolutely have.
You have? Was it as awful as it seems? The answer is yes.
Is it as awful as it seems? No, because you are imagining it to be much more cringeworthy than it actually is. Because the reason what keeps it less cringeworthy is because half of the people at the wedding are on board for that to happen, and they buffet everybody else going, how could you even think this was appropriate? And so you have you have like the shock of the people who are like, what are you doing? Who are staring at this oncoming train, and then the starts from the idiot brigade who think that this is appropriate and charming, and then you're all swept up in this, and you're looking at the bride who has hit the roof, and the bridesmaid is just handing drink after drink to calm the situation down, and then it passes, and then you all laugh about it, and then everybody gets really drunk and hopes to forget it. So it's not as bad, but it's pretty bad. But I have been there, yes, on an unfortunate amount of occasions.
Unfortunate amount. Holy cow, yeah. Man, if that happened at my wedding.
It happened in my own family. My own cousin did it to my other cousin.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
Horror.
Back to the question of the week. This is a really hard question for me to answer because if some weird planets aligned, stars shifted in the sky for me to actually end up getting married, you guys would probably find out about it like 2 months after it actually happened because I'd just like get it done at the city hall and like not even mention it.
You would too. You're so rude. Okay, here.
It's not rude. It's like I'm saving
rude.
you guys the expense and the
That's
travel
true.
and the all that.
We
It's
live
like,
in the same city.
good luck. I got married without bothering you guys. Yeah, but you got a job. You don't have to take time away.
Yeah, you
from
don't want
that.
to take off on a Friday.
I had to drive to Milwaukee for New Year's.
Hey,
I
that
can
was
show up
probably the
and
best
sit-
New Year's you've ever had.
There was a year that I was fighting off chuds in my basement because Y2K was happening, so you got some stiff competition there, buddy.
Chuds.
all right, hold on. Pokemon of the week. We're moving on.
Giovanni would be my best man. Last week's Pokemon, it evolves from a trade evolution, has to use a tooth-related item to evolve during that trade evolution, and it has an erratic leveling rate, even though that's really inconsequential and was kind of thrown in just to throw people off. Who's that Pokemon? Oh, evolves from Clamperl. Come on.
It's
Octillery.
That does not evolve from Clamperl.
Why are you the worst? Of course, not that this is a great answer, because this is the worst. It's Huntail.
It is Huntail. Huntail's not the worst.
Well, that's pretty bad.
I mean, it's not wearing a bra like Gorbis is.
Look,
So now I regret bringing this up at all.
it wants to go where the people are. Don't mock it for its desires.
Peak creativity here with Huntail.
I mean, it's an eel that evolves from a clam.
Yeah, you evolved from a clam. I don't know what that means.
Oyster? Who knows? Mussel? Mussel's like half a clam?
There's little to no trivia about Huntail besides
Oh,
that.
no.
And despite being a pure water type Pokemon, it bears dark type Poke Assistant in Ranger Shadows of Alma.
Good game. Oh, man. I cannot wait for them to make Pokemon Ranger for the Switch.
Do you think they will?
No.
Look, they made Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX.
Mm.
Come on. Pokemon Ranger's coming next.
I defo need people's opinions on this shuffle icon for Huntail. Because it's ugly, but so is Huntail.
I like that shiny, though.
That's pretty good. Yeah, Huntail's shiny is pretty good.
Is it? It's
I
green.
think the shuffle icon is okay.
I think it represents Huntail. Why does Huntail have like a Weevil head coming out of it?
A Weevil head?
Like the Weevil headband?
What happened in
Are
Omega
you
Ruby
trying to
Alpha?
say Weavile?
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry, Weevil. Sorry, I got Weevils on the mind.
Weevils are little bugs that I used to eat in my oatmeal in St. Thomas in the 70s.
Excuse me?
It's a story.
Okay, what is it? Gen
3.
7? No, Gen 6. Every other generation, Huntail is twisting. And then you look at Gen 6, X and Y, and it's just one long tail.
It's a straight
It's 'cause
boy.
of the first 3D models. That's all. That's where that came from. All right. This week's Pokemon of the Week is only for special people.
Uh-oh. I'm out.
You guys are both out.
Dang.
The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX game will be coming to Switch on March 6th. That's really hard to say. You will know this week's Pokemon if you understand this week's question and answer pairs. Question. A delinquent is hassling a girl on a busy street. What will you do? Answer. Help without hesitation or help even if scared. Question. A human hand extends out of a toilet. What would you do? It's a real question. A human hand extends out of a toilet. What would you do? Answer. Shake hands with it.
No!
Question. Can you go into a haunted house? Answer. No problem. Question. There is a person you like, but there is no opportunity to get close. What do you do? Answer. Bravely declare my love. Question. There is a scream from behind a door. How will you react? Answer. Yank open the door. Question. There is an alien invasion. What will you do? Answer. Fight. Question. You valiantly fight the aliens, but you are defeated. An alien tells you, you have impressed us. It was a pleasure to see. Join us, and together we shall rule the world. How do you reply? Answer. Refuse. Question. When the going gets tough, do you get going? Answer. Yes. Question. You win a lottery. What do you do with the money? Answer. Give it away. Question. Your friend is being bullied. What do you do? Answer. Face up to the bully or heckle the bully from behind. Question. You're going bungee jumping for the first time. Since it's scary, you decide to test the rope with a doll. The bungee cord snaps. Do you still try to make the jump? Answer. Yes.
What?
Final question. Are you male or female? Answer. Male. All right. For those Mystery Dungeon players out there in the world, you all will know who this week's Pokemon is. If you've never played Mystery Dungeon, you have no idea what I just put you through and why.
You have to write these down.
I will post them in the Pokemon of the Week Slack channel once this episode is published.
I'm really bothered by aliens putting a hand in the toilet.
Aliens didn't put a hand in the toilet.
No,
how did it get in there?
It extends out of the toilet. I don't know. It's one of those Japanese toilets, though. It's not. It's like a pit toilet.
Ooh. I like a good Japanese toilet.
You've got to be kidding.
If I show up at your house and there is a hand coming out of your toilet, Steve, I swear we are no longer friends.
You got to shake that hand.
No.
All right. That's our episode. We will be back next week. Pokemon Day is when this episode comes up on Thursday. If you're listening to this on Monday. Also, if you made it to the end, your reminder to sign up for the Galar competition in Sword and Shield. You go under the Versus menu. You go to Online Competitions, and then you hit Sign Up. As always, you do not need your team ready. And you need to at least play in one complete match, win or lose, in order to get your Ball Guy t-shirt. So if you want to go in with a Squovit, a Rookidee, and a Thievul, and just lose, you are more than welcome to get your Ball Guy t-shirt. Also,
Isn't it doubles? So you'd have to pick 4.
Oh, you'd have to pick one more. A Wooloo. Also, because this always happens every time, you don't get your t-shirt right away. You have to wait till rankings are posted, which may take up to 2 weeks. So even if you do your match, participate, they could post rankings the following Monday, or they could post rankings a month later. It's just how fast they need to calculate rankings. They seem to be doing a lot faster in Sword and Shield than they did in Sun and Moon, but because this actually awards championship points for IRL games, it might take a little bit longer. But sign up, get your shirt. If you will be at PAX East this weekend, I will be there on Friday and Saturday, and then I'll be flying back Sunday morning, doing whatever Pokemon Go event there is, and then recording the podcast. And then we'll talk about what happened on Pokemon Day, which will either be uneventful like the previous years.
or everything will happen.
Maybe something will happen. I'm assuming that my guess would be that they're going to rotate some Pokemon in raids. I know Toxtricity is around till the 8th of March. I'm assuming they will add a new raid Pokemon.
Gengar.
I'm assuming Pokemon Masters will have some new characters that are not announced officially, but probably seen in the data leak. I'm assuming Pokemon Center will have new items on their store. These are all very safe bets.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything like remakes of Black 2, White 2.
Well, Gen 4 first.
No, they're skipping it. They're skipping it, going right to Gen 5.
Yeah.
No.
All right. If you haven't already, we have a subreddit you can join. That'll be in the show notes. Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff in the show notes. Will at Wash in the Sink, Greg at White Wing, I'm at Dragging a Lake. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys next week. Be safe. Enjoy Pokemon. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast. We are
super effective.
Super. Get me all my Vivillon forms. Stop trading me ones that I already have.
This podcast is supported by our Patreon backers, and some of those people paid money to get their name read at the end of this show, starting with our producers Liam, Casey, Noah, Patrick, Jetsy, Alex, Matthew, Kay, Courtney, Catherine, Jeffrey, Sejanus, Kevin, and our executive producers of Anthony and Pancakes. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast as well, you can go over to patreon.com/itssupereffective, or you can head over to the easier to remember domain, ise.cash. Literally, ise.cash. Super easy to remember because money exchanges hands, and ISC is short for the podcast. Also, shout out to Nick, who does all the music for the show. And yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it to the end. This was new. Hey, it was different. We will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for supporting the show and listening. Really, really, truly appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Bye.